So 3 concepts of AAC-focused meaning making is then really the issue of participation, engagement, the fact that there needs to be personal engagement for meaning to develop. Otherwise, you can share, you can exchange, you can share exchanges, you can share information, but you do not develop meaning in a way that something happens between you. And the third concept here that's very important is the creative interaction between participation and engagement, because it's not a 50-50. You know, engagement and participation is a synthesis. Is a way sometimes a person can participate a lot and not communicate at all, like they can talk a lot. Sometimes somebody can talk very little, but can make some very significant nonverbal cues to keep meaning development at actually quite a high level. In fact, you sometimes find this in situations with adults that lose their like motor neuron disease, ALS, where people lose the ability, but they still sort of really in tune with each other. That they can develop quite a significant level of meaning between them, even though, you know, the participation of one person could be quite limited. Okay, so participation is something we're very familiar with. It's the ability to exchange messages, to share with another. And that obviously requires an expressive ability, making sure that the individual has a means to communicate, has a speech-generating device. But as I talked earlier to Kathy, it really is the beginning of it. It's the beginning of the process of actually getting somebody to engage in communication. The real challenge is how to engage the speech-generating device and helping the person develop authentic communication with other people. Participation very often manifests in our, in our interactions with students is the ability to do with others and to reach goals, to participate in our goals for the classroom, in teaching literacy and, all these trials that we do with students. That's participation. It's based on stimulate response. We want the kid to learn certain things. And understand me well, I do think there's a place for that. I think what we're becoming increasingly concerned with is that we do this 80-90% of the day of this child's day at school, and the child actually gets very little exposure to what really matters for the rest of his life and really impacts his learning quite significantly. And that's his ability, or his or her ability, to really engage in meaningful interaction with other people. Engagement then is the ability to be attentive to and respecting of others in an interaction. It's interest in others. It's the ability to take perspective, and it's emotional resonance. The ability to sort of just zoom in and be with that person to get an idea of where that person is at today. And sometimes, you can enter a classroom and immediately get some sense of what's going on in the classroom. I think that's incredibly important. The same you do when you actually start interacting with one of your students. It is this intersubjective component that enables communication partners to listen to each other and really develop meaning between them. So as I said before, it's this creative synthesis between engagement and participation that is really what is important. And this is how we think about it. So you have participation on the one sort of axis and engagement on the other. And then we can look at students who have very high participation but very low engagement. Those are your talkers, kids who can regurgitate a lot of information but actually having great difficulty actually engaging with it at all. You also have low participation, low engagement, where students would be very passive and really not do anything. They're not interested, but they also don't participate. And on the other side, you would have high participation, high engagement, where the student is not necessarily talking all the time, but he participates in a very appropriate way because he's engaged and is able to sort of, with a high level of engagement, participate. So his participation in that context is optimal. I think what's important here is that frequency of participation is not what this is about. It's part of it, but the most important thing is also to look at the appropriacy of the interaction, of the participation that the person actually displays. And then we have low participation, high engagement. This is a situation where AAC users could be, because they might not have the ability to participate, but they might be, although that's not often the case, very high in engagement. Somebody like Martin Pistorius might have sort of been in this category when he actually came out of the coma and started to be actually very aware of what happens, around him. So this is really how we look at it from an assessment point of view, and then the issue, obviously, and just helping us to understand where on the spectrum can we start sort of placing this job or this person in terms of meaning making. So we have engagement, participation, and in the middle there, the development of new nuanced meaning. How do the participation of this individual and his ability or her ability to engage work together to actually sort of entice the development of meaning making between people?